In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill's Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the Bears schedule release. We're going to be talking some staffing changes with the Bulls, little Blackhawks, and a lot of baseball. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Make sure you head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, do you know what today is? What the
It
anniversary today is the anniversary of?
oh boy. The
Not sports
anniversary.
related. Not sports
Non-sport
related.
non-sports related. Okay, it's May 20th. Or no, it's May 19th, sorry.
Mhm.
May 19th. How long ago are we talking?
1999.
1999. Okay, so I was like 5 or 6 years old. Hmm. I feel like when you tell me, I'll kick myself. What was it?
Uh, the Phantom Menace release came out. Star Wars: The Phantom Menace,
Ah,
May 19th, 1999,
the world got introduced to Jar Jar Binks.
and Darth Maul.
And Darth Maul, yes, and Qui-Gon Jinn, and Padme Amidala.
So yeah, they got introduced to Padme and Darth Maul. So anything else that anybody had to say negative about this, it is null and void because of those two things.
And I guess you could say that you got introduced to the Trade Federation and battle droids.
Roger, Roger.
Roger, Roger. Well, and I think if there is one, there's a lot of controversy, obviously, over the years of all the changes George Lucas made to the original trilogy with some of the CGI changes in the scenes. Um, you know, the redoing of the barge band in Return of the Jedi. That was one of the many controversies. Obviously, the Jabba the Hutt scene from A New Hope, which I actually didn't mind that addition. When they actually made Jabba look good. The first go around was horrific, but uh, there was a lot of controversy. But the one good change I think was made that doesn't even apply to the original trilogy was the puppet Yoda in episode 1 looked so bad. So bad. It was a good thing they changed him to the CGI one from Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. That's my take.
The worst one is the Greedo and Han Solo scene.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say that, but I wasn't sure if I would send you spiraling into some sort of rage-filled, type of reaction where you just start throwing things and breaking windows and beating your chest and running around the street like a madman until the neighbors call the cops.
Greedo is my all-time favorite Star Wars character, but here's the thing. Han didn't shoot first. Han just shot. There was one shot. Han shot Greedo, killed him. Boom. There was no like second shot. It was just a shot.
That edit where like he jerks his head is just so bad.
That was dumb. And so that's what I'll say about that one.
Greedo is your favorite character.
Greedo is my all-time favorite Star Wars character, and I don't know. I'm assuming as a small child that the Greedo action figure was the first Star Wars action figure I got.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess, but he was my favorite character growing up, and he's still my favorite character. And it's cool because if you collect Star Wars stuff, they make, because he was one of the original figures, they make enough Greedo stuff where you're like, okay, I'm kept interested in collecting things with Greedo on them. But it's not so much that you're like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed by Greedo stuff. It's not like, oh yeah, Darth Vader's my favorite character. And it's not possible to own everything that they put Darth Vader on. But Greedo, you could literally own everything that they've ever made of Greedo, and you'd be like, okay, yeah, I can do this. Doable.
Boy, now I just picture you have this room at your house and it's
I
all just Greedo.
I kind of do. Not a whole, it's not just the Greedo room, but it's the Greedo hallway. So in my basement, I have a room that's my action figures, and then I have a hallway that goes, um, you know, to the basement bathroom, the mechanicals, and the laundry room. And the hallway has uh, 2.5 cabinets, like those IKEA glass shelves, just filled with things Greedo.
I need to come over and see this.
And
I,
also,
s-
I
I
can't fit
seriously
it
need
all in
to.
there because I actually have a life-size Greedo bust, so it's from like his chest up, and it's life size. Um, yeah,
I picture, I don't know why. I just picture walking to your house and the ceiling, painted on the ceiling, is just a big Greedo.
it's like the Sistine Chapel, except it's Greedo and Han Solo touching fingers.
Now, what if, for whatever reason, there was a Bears game day and the promotion was just Greedo Day?
Oh, I would be there. I would just be there. You know, is this the San Francisco Giants? They had a Star Wars Day, and the giveaway was Madison. It was the cantina scene with Han Solo and Greedo, except instead of Han Solo, it was Madison Bumgarner,
Oh my.
and they had it was like a figure set, and I found somebody in San Francisco that was at the game, and I bought it from them.
Well, I mean, a lot of the teams around here, a lot of them, especially the minor league teams, like, I know Star Wars Night is a big deal for like the AHL. So the Ice Hogs and the Wolves, if you go, they're on Star Wars Night. I'm sure you'll see a lot of fun Star Wars shit there, and I'm sure there's a Greedo or two there just walking around. So, maybe you should try to go to one of those dressed as Greedo. If you want to go to the Ice Hog Star Wars Night next year, you could just show up as Greedo.
I have some friends that are in the 501st, which is the Star Wars costuming group, and they were like, "Dude, you should totally be Greedo." And I was just like, and I looked into it, and to have like this screen accurate mask and costume, you're looking at like $2,000, and I'm like, my wife might murder me. Like, I feel like she might murder me enough as it is. I don't need to add more things to the list.
Oh, I was gonna say, she doesn't draw the line at a Greedo hallway, but if you dress up as Greedo, all bets are off.
I, I think it's the straw that broke the camel's back. She might. It's the Greedo costume that sent my wife over the edge.
Hell, now that I think about it, you could have dressed up as Greedo a million times on this podcast, and I wouldn't know.
Wouldn't that be hilarious if that was like the thing?
I've been co-hosting with you for 7+ years, and all this time I didn't know that I was talking with a wannabe Greedo.
And the more you know,
Well,
as G.I. Joe would say, knowing is half the battle.
yeah, G.I. Joe.
Uh, so the other day, uh, like this is one of those things that like I realize that I probably have a sports problem, but the fact that there's so many other people in the same bandwagon makes me feel okay about it. Is the NFL had a special day where they just released the schedule.
I love it.
And you're like, why? Why is that important? But I don't care because I'm like, give me all of it. You know how much time I spent watching other teams' stupid videos of releasing their schedule, or the
It's
teams that just
fun.
didn't bother to?
It's a lot of fun. I love it. And I feel like when you see teams, get creative, it helps grow the game. I mean, the NFL is the league that takes advantage of every little thing. Holidays, okay, we're going to put games on Netflix now to give you more football. We're going to give you football on Thanksgiving. We're going to make the Super Bowl the biggest sports event in the world. And when you release a schedule, we're going to make that a big spectacle too. Why the hell not? And I mean, again, we're in a very unique situation with football because unlike the other major sports, the schedule is different every year. In baseball, you're going to play the same opponents every year. Same with basketball, even with the play-in tournament. I mean, it's all just, you're playing all the same teams you do every year. Same with hockey, but in football, every week matters. There's 17 games, and you don't play the same list of opponents every year outside of your division. So I think it is a big deal. And it's a big deal because everybody wants to see where are the primetime matchups? When are the holiday matchups? When are we going to get to see the matchups of the great quarterbacks? When are we going to get to see the rookie quarterbacks go head to head? When are we going to see Pat Mahomes play Josh Allen? When are we going to see him play Joe Burrow? When are
Who's
we
going
going
to
to
be
see
the
him play
first, the
rookie?
Hall of Fame game, the first game of the season?
Right, exactly.
I
And
mean,
it's
baseball
fun to watch.
baseball gets a little tiny bit of that with, all right, opening day. Who's your team playing? Who's playing opening day? Okay. And basketball, it's, oh, who's playing on Christmas? But the NFL is like, who's playing week 9 on Thursday night? Let's make videos about it. And we're all like,
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. Mid-season games could bring in some of the top ratings. And, think about this too. When you look at a schedule, you break down where you're playing your division opponents. And we're going to get into this when we talk about the Bears schedule because it is worth noting. And you also look at when your bye week is. I mean, that's kind of one of those things where you're like, hey, when's our week off? Because let's be real, a lot of diehard football fans plan their lives around their team. And it's not just because to watch the game, but to go to the games too and know, like, if you're going to be traveling. And, obviously people look at schedules but there's 162 games in baseball. So you kind of figure out as you go. Whereas with the NFL, oh, I really want to see them when they play the Packers. When are they playing the Packers? I got to keep an eye out as soon as they see it. Okay, week 10, we're going to Soldier Field. Oh, when are they going to be in Detroit? Oh, Thanksgiving. Got to make that a priority here. So you're kind of like the NFL schedule is a way for like football fans to help plan their lives from September through January.
Yeah. Like, when we knew the Bears were going to play in London, when was it going to be? We find out. And, but the videos are a pretty recent phenomenon where you go to announce it. And some teams do a fun job of it and awesome. The Bears did a good job.
Yeah.
Bears were one of the better ones. I don't know if you saw the Chargers video.
Oh, yes.
So, if those of you didn't see it, the Chargers in the video, they just put a QR code. And so, if you go to the QR code, it says, "Are you a Chargers fan?" Or yeah, it was like a click box that, "Are you a Chargers fan or a Raiders fan?" If you click Chargers fan, it takes you to the thing to buy tickets. If you're a Raiders fan, it takes you to like an application for like clown college.
So funny.
I was like, that's so petty and childish. I love it.
I love it too. I really love the Tennessee Titans one.
Like last year's was great. This one was good, but it was not the same level as last year's. But it was
Last year
still
was
good.
fantastic, yes.
Yeah. But
This
yeah,
year for the Bears, we got a mix of Ferris Bueller and Mean Girls, and it was kind of a fun little mix, and I really enjoyed it.
yeah, it was all like those like old high school movies that were filmed in and around Chicago or based around Chicago, and they put Bears players in it. So that was a lot of fun, and Jake Johnson from New Girl was the narrator for it because he's a diehard Bears fan.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a good one. So it was
Matt Eberflus just looks like a high school teacher.
and the best was Spice Adams was the guy from the Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm.
Mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Yeah, I love the fact that they put Spice in there, but Spice is very heavily involved with the Bears still. He's a great personality. So kudos to the Bears for, good work on that schedule release. It's kind of funny to see how far they've come because it wasn't too long ago when like the schedule release was basically like a bowling alley animation of like caricatures of the teams they were playing with like early 90s animation, computer animation, like, oh, at Detroit, November 15th. And it would have like just like this robotic animated lion on a bus, like with its mouth like wide open, scare. It's really come a long way. It's turned into like a legitimate production.
The Jaguars had a cool concept. They were doing it to like the X-Men 97. Like,
Hmm.
all right, cool idea, but then it was kind of a weak execution. I was a little bummed.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's fun, and the NFL has done a good job of making it um
A
a
holiday almost. Like the
yes,
football fans everywhere kept refreshing their feeds to see all the leaks come out and then finally see the official release.
yeah, and they found a way to make it really fun and still relevant for the league, but also fun not just for the fans, but for like casual fans or people that like are love somebody that's a fan, because they can sit there and watch these videos and not care about the schedule but still think they're fun.
Exactly, exactly.
It is the league keeps hitting home runs.
They do. And they make a lot of money from them.
That's true. um so we know the Bears schedule now,
Hmm.
and you know i I know some people were very upset that the Bears have minimal primetime games. um you've got week 2 Sunday night football. You've got a Thanksgiving Day game. You've got a Monday night football game and a Thursday night football game, and then flex on the last game of the season. But as of right now, you have 4 primetime games, and then the London game, which I'm not going to call primetime because it's on so early in the morning.
But it is a special circumstance.
Yes. So I know some people were upset that the Bears, with this new high flying offense and the Caleb Williams as the new quarterback, that should have gotten more focus. I'm fine. I'm
So am I.
honestly, I'm honestly fine. Um, and the schedule sort of shapes up well for the Bears too. You start the season at home at a noon game on Sunday against Tennessee, a team that's in transition. That's a soft landing.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, listen, there's also the possibility too that another game or two that's not week 18 gets flexed. We've seen it before. Remember 2018 when that Bears Vikings game got flexed to Sunday Night Football?
Yep.
It can happen.
Um, week 2, that's gonna be a tough matchup, but I don't think it is the like a world beater one. Houston's a really good team, um, but it's not like playing the Eagles in Philadelphia, or you know um, Green Bay in Green Bay. But it'll be a good
So,
matchup, and it'll be a good litmus test after your opener to see where the Bears stand.
yeah, I agree. So I don't know about you, but I always write down the schedule and I have several columns and the schedule came out May 24th and that's my first column and in each column I give my win-loss prediction. So I figured since we've done this every year, shall we just go through and give our earliest predictions?
Sure, sure. So I have week 1 win against Tennessee.
I have a week 1 win too. And do I think it's the easiest slam dunk in the world? No, but I do think that it's a very winnable game. It's at home. There's going to be a lot of energy with Caleb Williams making his NFL debut. And like you said, the Titans are in transition right now. So, you have a chance to start off 1-0.
Week 2, like I said, in Houston on Sunday Night Football. I think Houston wins that one.
I agree. That's a
Uh,
they got a lot going for them.
yeah, it's a road game. Um, you know, it's maybe it's a different story if it's in Chicago, but I'm going to give the any clearly they're a better team. And it's on the road, so I'm going to give that to Houston.
Me too.
Week 3, noon on Sunday against Indianapolis in Indianapolis. I've got the Bears.
So that's a winnable game. It's a very winnable game. I'm putting it as a loss, and I can't really explain why for this one. I don't know. I could just see them losing that game. I think that maybe they might underestimate their opponent a little bit, and I don't know. It's just something in my gut.
Fair enough. I mean, I think Indianapolis is going to be a much improved team.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I think hinders them is, sure, their starting quarterback is in his second year, but he did not play very much last year.
No, he got hurt pretty early on, and it'll be interesting to see how he looks in the preseason, those first few games. I think he's got the talent to be good, but like you said, it's a small sample size.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be pretty good. It is a um, it's early season, and usually the defenses are better positioned to do well early in the seasons, and I think the Bears get the better of him.
That's fair.
Um, Week 4, Rams in Chicago, noon on Sunday. I think the Bears coaching staff gets outcoached. I have the Rams winning this one.
I have the Bears winning that one. And on paper, obviously, you have a lot more experience. Matt Stafford is no stranger to Soldier Field. Yes, I agree. They have a much better coaching staff. Obviously, you got some big names on the Rams, but some of those names are aging, and I think that the Rams will be in contention for the playoffs. But I do think that the Bears defense can hold them down enough.
Fair enough.
If this was in LA, I'd probably be singing a different tune. But coming to Soldier Field, and I know it's not, it's still early in the season, so it's not going to be a blizzard or anything. But I think that they can handle that one.
Um, and then the week 5 is Carolina coming to Chicago, playing a noon on Sunday game, and I have that as a victory for the Bears.
As do I.
I just I don't think Carolina is very good, and I don't know what their quarterback has done to improve, or their coaching staff has done to help their young quarterback out. I think it's going to be a pretty easy win. And just pause quick, is none of these games I feel confident enough on May 19th to argue about any of them. It's anything can happen in this league. So at this
Yeah,
point, these are my.
excuse me. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, we have not even seen training camp yet. We've only seen rookie mini camp. Like, we don't know what injuries are going to happen. Like, there's so many factors are going into this that it's silly for me to even get upset about any of these or even argue. They're just plain guesses at this point.
Oh yeah, that's the whole point of this, is to see how this evolves. And excuse me for saying came out on May 24th. I did not mean to say that. I was thinking of 14th, 15th when all this stuff was coming out. So we have not even hit May 24th yet. So ignore that. But yes, absolutely. Everything's going to change. That's why it's always fun to see how this evolves.
Week 6 is the London game against Jacksonville. I have that as a win.
I have that as a loss, not because of the matchup, but just you go overseas, stupid shit happens. And I feel like the Jaguars already kind of have that edge of traveling to London before, so they're kind of a bit more used to it, where a lot of the Bears are not. If this truly was a home game at Soldier Field, I would call that a win. But just with these circumstances, I'm going to say loss.
Okay. Um, week 7 is the bye week. I don't like that there's an early bye,
I don't either.
but what can you do? Then week 8, they go to Washington to play against the Commanders. I have that as a win.
So do I. So do I. It'll be interesting to see how Jane Daniels does. But I think overall we have a better team.
I would agree with that. Week 9, they're going to Arizona. That's a 3 o'clock Sunday game. I have a lost Arizona.
Is it Arizona or San Francisco?
San Francisco's 14.
Okay. Yeah.
Arizona's 9. Week 9.
Okay. Arizona, I'm going to say win.
Okay. Week 10, New England coming to Chicago for a noon on Sunday game. I have the Bears winning because I think New England is a disaster.
Yeah, I kind of share the same sentiment. I know they just got a new quarterback and a new coach, but yeah, I think just looking at the situation right now, it feels winnable.
Then the first division game is week 11
Crazy.
against Green Bay. The nice thing about that is you get to build up time and let Caleb Williams play a little bit and get the feel for the NFL and start to gain confidence and whatnot before they have to play stupid Green Bay. Like the week
Yeah,
ones against Green
yeah.
Bay, I hate those. I feel like Matt Eberflus is not prepared. The Bears staff is not, or the players are not ready, and Green Bay is always ready, and it's always a bad look. Playing week 11, I feel more.
Yeah.
I think the Bears lose, but I feel like it won't be an embarrassment.
I fall for this trap every year. I'm just gonna say it until I'm right, which may never be the case, but I'll call this one a win.
It's going to happen eventually.
Is it?
I mean, it has to, right?
Logic would tell you that.
All right. Week 12, Minnesota comes to Chicago for a noon game. I have Bears winning.
I have that as a loss. I
Okay.
just do.
Week 13, Thanksgiving Day at Detroit.
I'm gonna also say loss. I just think the Lions are gonna be in their prime this year.
I'm gonna as soon as we get through this, I'm gonna talk about why I think the Bears are probably gonna lose both to Detroit. Then the next game is San Francisco in San Francisco, 3 p.m. on a Sunday game.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a loss. San Francisco's just better than you. That's a game where I can see the Bears, making it a game the first 3 quarters or 2.5 quarters, and then San Francisco just being the better team pulls away at the end.
That's kind of how I see it. I think the Bears just don't do enough, but I think it's a measuring stick. And you see that, oh, hey, they're not as far as some people think they are.
Right.
Week 15 at Minnesota on Monday Night Football.
I'm going to call that a win.
Okay. I'm calling that one a loss.
Okay, so we flip-flop the home road.
Yeah. And then week 16, home against Detroit noon on Sunday. I have that as a loss.
I have that as a win.
Okay. And then you have Thursday Night Football, week 17 against Seattle.
I'm going to call that a win.
I'm going to call that a win as well. And then week 18, TBA time at Green Bay.
Loss.
I have that as a loss as well. So I have them as 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, hold on. I have them as 8 and 9.
I have them at 10-7, and I'm ashamed. I should know better.
Um,
I know there are people going a little higher, people going a little lower. I think there's a lot of people that believe that 8 is the benchmark. I think the betting over under is like 8.5 wins for the Bears.
it is 8.5.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you're just like, they won 7 games with bad talent and some historic losses. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you take out 2 historic losses, like they're a 9-win team last year.
Heck, they could have
And
been could 3. You could put them as 3 historic losses.
yeah, like you give 2 out of 3 of historic losses, and you're like, okay, they're a 9-win team. So
Right.
you have them as a worse team this year. So that seems low, but and especially considering like on paper they have like the 3rd easiest schedule. But then you start looking at the games and like, well, we got to win the games. So you start looking and you're like, okay, I could see why it's 8 or 9 wins.
Well, and I mean it's the fact that the NFC North is so tough.
It is a tough division.
I mean, frankly, I give the Bears a lot of wins because of their non-NFC North schedule. To your point, where you were saying, the schedule is easy. I mean, if this was a tougher schedule on paper outside of the NFC North, I wouldn't be right to give this team 10, 11 wins. I'd probably be looking at more 8-ish. Because I think that when you look at the schedule they have, and this is just my opinion, I think if you look at the schedule they have, and you identify teams that are very winnable, but you do have to respect every opponent in the NFL. That's what Dan Jiggets would always say. And, you know, the Panthers are probably as close to a surefire win as all these. A lot of these other teams, you're thinking right now, and again, it's mid-May. A lot's going to change, but you look at it right now as a lot of this is winnable, but you don't point to a team and say, like, oh, there's no way we lose to them. The closest thing you do is the Panthers. So, there could be some interesting swings in here. I mean, football is football. And hell, you could see the Bears go out to Houston and beat them week 2. And then, maybe a struggling Patriots team comes into your building and beats you. I mean, there's every year, no matter how good or bad the Bears are, they always win the game they're not supposed to win, and they always lose the game they're supposed. Like, you can always give one win and one loss unexpected each season. It's just a matter of who.
Yeah. So looking a little bit deeper at the schedule is the reason I have both Detroit games as losses, and normally I would at least split those, is that they played Detroit on short weeks, both games. And I know
Yeah.
Detroit, at least one of them is also on a short week, the Thanksgiving game, but that one's at least at home for them. So it's tough to win on a short week, and Seattle is also a short week, playing Thursday Night Football. But again, that's a short week for Seattle too. But they gave the Bears 3 short weeks, and part of me, it was considering giving the Bears a win against San Francisco because that one's a mini bye for the Bears because they play Thursday and then they don't play until the 3:00 game the next Sunday against San Francisco. If that one was at home, I would have given the Bears put them on as a win, even though it was against San Francisco, just because you get a week and a half, you get that mini bye. But going to the West Coast kind of negates a lot of that.
I get what you're saying. I do. And Detroit's going to be really good this year. I think that if they're healthy, they're probably a top 3 NFC contender, I would say. I think them, San Francisco. We'll see if Philly bounces back. I mean, Philly still made the playoffs last year, but they really fell hard towards the end. But
I
I
mean,
still don't think you could count them
first
out.
the first half of the season, they look like a juggernaut.
They did. They did. And
And
they
then,
were coming off a trip to the Super Bowl, too.
yeah, they looked like they were unstoppable. This team's going to win the Super Bowl, and they just collapsed. I mean,
They didn't even, yeah.
they went to the Super Bowl and almost fired their coach the next year.
Isn't that insane?
That's why Philly's always in it. They take those bold steps.
Right.
Um,
That's very true. They're not afraid to trade. They're not afraid to maneuver things. They're not afraid to make brash decisions.
no, and it's one of those things is like I know a lot of people talk about the Bears. They're like, oh, the hope is that they don't have a top 10 pick for a long time after this year. So you got to be bold. And that's true. I hope that they don't have a top 10 pick for a long time. But honestly, the way things play out for some of the late round teams in the first round, like those playoff teams, it kind of plays out pretty well because you're already a team that's pretty good. So you don't have these gaping holes where you're like, I got to draft a tight end or I
Right.
have to dress. Most of the time you're pretty okay. You're drafting best available player. Somebody falls. Somebody always falls because teams reach for skilled positions, the quarterbacks, the wide receivers. Somebody falls, and you end up getting a good player in those late picks because somebody fell. I mean, look at the Eagles. They needed cornerbacks, and two of the best cornerbacks in the draft fell to them just because they just were there. It's, whereas the teams that are drafted early, they're putting all those eggs into, a player. They're the Bears, they need a quarterback. They didn't have a quarterback. So they put all their eggs in the Caleb Williams basket. And, I'm hopeful that it pans out. But if that doesn't, man, that looks bad. But if you're the 49ers and, you're drafting, uh, super late in the first round, you're like, okay, well, I don't have a ton of needs, so I'm going to draft the best player available. And if it doesn't pan out, you're like, okay, whatever. Most people will just forget who you drafted because it's not that big of a deal. And if he pans out, then you're like, oh man, look at this guy they got in the first round at the 31st pick. That the pressure is not there. And on the player, the pressure's not there on the team to hit a home run on the pick. If you draft in the first 5, not only does that guy have to work out, he's got to be a home run or else you feel like you screwed up.
Yeah, and I think there's another thing to be said too that, even when you're drafting high, sometimes you have to get creative too in that spot. It's not always about taking one of the talents there. I mean, look at what Ryan Poles did. He traded that first number 1 overall pick back. And he didn't trade back, far to where the playoff contenders were, but the opportunities do arise where somebody ahead of you comes to you, and that can open up a whole other door to you. So the hope here for me, just looking at where Bears expectations are, if you would tell me that next year they won 9 games, were in contention for a playoff spot, and Caleb Williams in the offense looks great, then you could say, okay, you had a good season, not a great one, but a solid one. Your future looks great. You're in position to still draft some decent talent. Then you can kind of go out and say, hey, you know what? Let's just stock the hell up in the trenches. Because that, frankly, is, I think, where some of the missing pieces of this team are. Obviously, having a rookie quarterback, you have a lot to grow there. But, I mean, you look at the rest of the team, you feel good at wide receiver. You feel good at tight end. You feel pretty decent about running back. You feel good about your secondary. You feel good about your linebackers. But, you look at the offensive line, the defensive line, you're like, there's quite a bit of room to grow here. So that's kind of my ideal scenario. And, if you have a good season that doesn't hinder you from doing it, sure, you won't get, the first bite at the apple, but you would still be in pretty solid position to keep growing from there.
Yeah, 2 points I want to make is one is some of it you got to create your own luck a little bit.
Of course.
Is last year the Bears evaluated their pick with the number one overall, and I'm sure Poles had a good idea that he eventually wanted to pick his own quarterback, but he was like, well, he recognized if I draft somebody, am I putting them in the position to succeed? Probably not. And he's like, plus I like the crop of potentially the quarterbacks next year better. And so I get another season, another off season to bolster this roster, trade that pick for a bunch of picks, and then take my crack at quarterback next year and give Justin Fields another year to see if he can come through. And if he does, then that's like a super win. And if he doesn't, okay, well then we position ourselves in a better quarterback draft. Also, you have to look at downstream, like what these drafts look like. Like Ryan Poles was trading these late round picks for veteran players. And I think we were annoyed going into the draft, like, oh man, we don't have fifth rounder, we don't have a sixth round, we don't have all these picks. But then you start hearing close to the draft, all these people talking about, this is not a very deep draft, that so many underclassmen decided to go back to school. So it's not a very deep class, that after like the fourth round, you sort of really drop off significantly. And Ryan Poles knew that, took advantage. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to trade draft picks for players that fit needs now. And
right.
Worked, and it's hopefully works out, because he's taking advantage. He knows what's there from early scouting. He knows what the draft class as a whole looks like. He knows, all right, well, what did the tackle class look like? What does the guard class look like? What did the edge rusher class look like? And he made a trade for Montez Sweat, knowing that this edge rusher class was not very good. So, you have to create a little bit of the luck. And the other thing is, you literally took the next thing out of my my notes. Is I feel good about the Bears' skill positions on the offense and their back seven on defense. I still have concerns about their offensive and defensive lines, and that's if where they don't succeed this year is going to be because of the trenches. And where they do succeed this year is going to be on offensive line. It's going to be staying healthy, because their starting five, I think, are okay. It's just if they get injured.
Yeah, and then it really drops off.
It drops off. And I know the depth should be better this year than last year, but you've got Coleman Shelton, who's a veteran. That's your top interior offensive lineman, next man up. And then you've got Karan, that you just drafted as in the mix for the swing tackle. You still have Larry Borum, and then you signed veteran Matt Pryor, all for the mix for that swing tackle. So, you're like, okay, I have some veterans for the backup positions, but still, I don't love the backups. And defensive line, if they succeed, it's going to be because guys had growth. You're going to see Gervon Dexter grow from the second half of last year, where he started to look really good. You had growth with your young edge rushers. That's the way. If you find success this year, it's going to be because you saw growth there. But I agree with you. I think that next year they're going to look to really bolster both the offensive and defensive lines.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at the Bears right now, and you talked about creating your own luck, and listen, to create your own luck, you got to know your situation, and you look where the Bears are hopefully heading to. Now, you and I have been pretty critical about the Bears on a number of things over the past year or so. I mean, mainly the fact that you really last year could have made the playoffs. You could have won 9-10 games, and you blew games in historic fashion. And this has a chance to make that all worth it. Because if you do win those games, who knows what direction you're going in. Do you still think you maybe move on for Caleb Williams? I think probably, but do you get Rome Odunze? No. And if Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams are this dynamic duo, and that will make it more worth it, right? And obviously, not every step has been glamorous, and I still not fully convinced on Matt Eberflus as a head coach, but you know, the fact that Ryan Poles did what he did with trading the pick when he could have drafted CJ Stroud, but everybody knew they were trading that pick because Ryan Poles had just gotten finished tearing down a completely mortgaged house. I mean, that the Bears' future was completely mortgaged away at the end of the Ryan Pace era. So that self-awareness goes very heavily into this. And I think that this all has a chance to pay off, and we want to see it happen sooner than later. We've lost 24 games over the past 2 years. Or is it? I'd have to do the math again, but we've lost a lot of games. So we lost 10 last year, and the year before, 24. 14 losses in 2022 and 10 last year. 24 losses in 2 years. We want it all to be worth it.
Yeah, and like you said, is sometimes the going through the pain of these stupid losses might be worth it, because we do not get Rome Odunze if they win one more game. They just, like, if they one pick away,
Right.
they don't get him. They were lucky to get him at this point. Like, the fact that Atlanta just did a boneheaded thing, that helped the Bears a ton. But they probably don't get him if they get one pick down. And if it turns out that, and I know this is putting the cart way before the horse, if this turns out to be our Montana and Rice, this all becomes worth it.
Hopefully it's that cart before the horse isn't Buttercup and John Lackey.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm excited, and I was really hoping I could go to that London game, but it is like a day or two before my daughter's 10th birthday. I'm like, I can't do that. Can't do that.
No.
So it's a bummer, but I will be watching in while eating my Fruity Pebbles in the morning.
Right on. Right on. Solid choice. Fruity Pebbles, Cocoa Pebbles, those Flintstone cereals. I love those.
They have like zero nutritional value, but man, it just feels good to eat those sometimes.
Oh, I know. And Cocoa Pebbles are like really good, like, and Fruity Pebbles too. They're both good toppings for like ice cream.
There's a place in Boston. So when I met my wife, she was living in Boston. And so when I'd go to visit, there was an ice cream place, and like a famous Boston ice cream place. And one of their cones was made out of like Fruity Pebbles.
Oh yeah, I think I heard that somewhere.
Yeah. So I was like, oh man, this is so terrible for me, but oh, it is good.
Well, in college, I used to put Fruit Loops in a cereal bowl and then put ice cream over it. That was good.
That sounds legit. I might have to try that.
Fruit Loops are good too. I always loved Fruit Loops as a kid. It's funny. I don't eat cereal that often. But like every now and then, I'm like, man, Fruit Loops, Cocoa Pebbles, Count Chocula, Golden Grams, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That all sounds really good.
My kid and I are big on the Halloween cereals. So around Halloween, we're getting Frankenberry and Blueberry and Yummy Mummy and Fruit Brute. And but yeah, the vast majority of the year, if we have cereal in the house, it's like Honey Nut Cheerios. Like we usually don't have like a a lot of cereal around the house.
Well, the problem with cereal is, like you said, there's so little nutritional value in a lot of the really good ones. Like obviously Honey Nut Cheerios has some there's a number of other cereals out there that do, but like Cocoa Pebbles, Fruity Pebbles, Lucky Charms, Count Chocula, it's like, yeah, you're just eating sugar basically. And
Oh, absolutely.
it's just, I try to eat something of value like I eat like Nature Valley peanut butter dark chocolate bars, or occasionally, you know what I will eat lately every now and then is a nice Pop Tart. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I prefer the Pop Tart raw, not toasted,
Hmm. Do you like it with the frosting or without the frosting?
with the frosting.
Okay. Um, yeah, I'm not a big breakfast guy. Um, like sometimes like my daughter is she's very, very thin. So like when she goes through growth spurts and is like eating us out of house and home, I make her, she calls it banana soup, but it's a smoothie and it's oats, peanut butter, banana, agave, and oat milk.
Well, that sounds kind of good.
And so it's like packed full of protein and it's really filling. So usually I try to make that for her once a week or so. And when she doesn't finish it, because it's a lot, I'll finish the rest. But yeah, I'm really not a breakfast guy. Banana, maybe, an apple.
I
Um,
like when people make nice breakfasts for me.
that's true.
Like if someone gives me sunny side eggs, hash browns, sausage patties, boy, am I not going to say no to that. Eggs Benedict, love that. But I mean, like during like a normal work week, it's basically okay. I wake up, I have a bar or a Pop Tart, and I'm out the door.
I mean, I bad experience with Pop Tarts is so I was craving a cinnamon Pop Tart
Hmm. Those
not
are
too
good.
long ago, and I bought a box, and I think like I was at my work and we had it in the vending machine. They had a Pop Tarts, and I was like, they had the cherry ones. I was like, ooh, I like the
I
cherry.
have some of those at home.
And I bought them, and they were stale. And I was super bummed. I couldn't even finish it. But uh, so I bought a box of cherry and a box of cinnamon, and I had it in my car. And when my daughter was doing her performance at the Marriott and I mean, sorry, the Paramount Theater in Aurora, coming back, it's like an hour drive, and we'd be leaving at like 11 something at night. She would be starving, and there's really not a lot along the way to stop and get. So it was like, here, have a Pop Tart. And so like she finished that run like a little over a month ago. And the other day I don't go in my back seat very often. And I went in my back seat for something. And I was like, what's all over the ground? There was two Pop Tarts just on the ground that she must have been stepping on for a month, all crumbled and I was super annoyed.
Well, you know what's kind of funny is when you said you had a bad experience with Pop Tarts, I had one of two thoughts. Like one, you bit into it and there was like a metallic razor in it that shredded your insides, like the Krusty O from The Simpsons, or like you're like, oh, here, have some Pop Tarts, and the Pop Tarts were like yacked all over the back seat.
Well, you know the candy nerds?
Oh yeah, of course.
I can't even look at the package art without getting ill because when I was, I don't know, a little kid, it was Halloween and I was at my cousin's house and I remember we were watching the never ending story and we were eating Halloween candy. And I had an upset stomach. I think I was just like, you know, nothing to do with the candy. I don't even know if I had candy at that point. She had a really upset stomach. And when I ate nerds, I started throwing up. So now I associate nerds with throwing up, and I can't even looking at them without start like dry heaving.
Oh, that's a shame. I love nerds.
Even if I see somebody, like I saw somebody once wearing a shirt with the artwork on it, like from the box, and I got nauseous looking at the shirt.
You get nauseous looking at those armless blob characters.
It's like when Kramer hears that lady's voice on TV and starts having the seizures.
Oh yeah. And then he blacks out. What happened?
But if I do have breakfast, somebody make it for me. My dream breakfast is French toast.
I
I
do like
love
some
French
French
toast.
toast.
And there's a spot in Chicago in Roscoe Village that I love. I think it has the best French toast I've ever had in my life. It's called Lucy's Cafe. And
I've heard of it.
oh my goodness, and their French toast, they serve it with peach butter. So the butter has like peach chunks in it. Oh man, it's good.
It does sound good. I do like a good French toast, and I do like a good waffle or a pancake. But usually when I eat waffles, I'm just putting in some Lego my Eggo. Though, you know what? I'm going to say this right now. Eggo pancakes in the microwave are good. I
Never
like
had them.
them.
Never had them.
I I don't give a flying rat's ass what people say. You take them out of the box, that nice yellow box, and you just got that nice, perfectly round stack of pancakes. You put a few on a plate, you microwave them for, I don't know, 30 seconds, whatever it is. They're piping hot. Oh, I love them. I love them. It's better
Uh,
than, a few years back when my parents they used to make the real pancakes when I was a kid. I'm like, "Oh yeah, make mine a little extra dark with you got the I think it was the old Aunt Jemima brand, and then you put Mrs. Butterworth syrup all over them, and they'd be a little darker than normal. It'd just be like, "Ooh, they're so good and they're so fluffy on the inside with that little bit of brown crisp on the outside." They were just perfect. And then, oh, these are whole wheat pancakes. And I'm like, ew,
yeah, nobody likes whole wheat pancakes. My
fuck
wife,
that.
my wife's her red flag is whenever she goes to the store, she'll buy the healthier version of something, and you're like, why did you buy the the low sugar ice cream? You're like, it tastes gross. Oh, I didn't know it. I did that one. I'm like, bro,
Uh-huh.
uh-huh. You bought the whole wheat pancakes. You bought the pasta that's made out of garbanzo beans instead of just whatever pasta is made of.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I don't want to eat it now. She's like, "Well, you're not going to eat it," which I wasted money on. I'm like, you bought the wrong one. You,
Ugh.
nobody wants the whole wheat pancakes.
Well,
And,
so yeah, that's
and my wife grew up in a house that ate like real maple syrup. And I don't like real maple syrup. I like Mrs. Butterworth.
hell yeah.
Like I like the sugar syrup. Like that's and so my house we have the two different ones. And so whenever we make pancakes, you have to pull out two different syrups because she likes the one and I like the other. And my daughter tries to like walk the line because I think she likes both. So she'll like sometimes she'll get the real maple syrup and sometimes she gets the fake one. But really, my kid most of the time does not put syrup on her pancakes. She just puts butter.
Hmm. I prefer syrup over butter on pancakes.
I pancakes just syrup, waffles butter and syrup.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. Um, yeah, no, I think that's a good take. Now, it's funny you mention that because, when I was a little kid, my mom, she makes a bunch of different things, but one of the things that I always loved was traditional spaghetti and meat sauce. The meat sauce we'd use is good old ground chuck. That's good stuff. And so one time, I didn't even know it. We tried to go a little healthier, and it was white turkey meat instead of ground chuck, and I couldn't even eat it. I'm like, what the hell is this shit? It's like, oh, it's turkey meat. And I'm like, oh, this is vile. But then we tried darker turkey meat. It was actually okay. We did alternative turkey meat for spaghetti to be a little healthier, sloppy joe to be a little healthier, even tacos. Turkey tacos are actually pretty good when spiced right, but when you do like light turkey meat replacement of the good old ground chuck, that was just blah. And that was around the same time as the whole wheat pancakes, and just no.
My wife is a meat eater. My daughter and I are vegetarians. But my wife has found she likes fake chorizo better than real chorizo because the spices taste the same and it's way less greasy. So she actually
I can
prefers
understand
the
that.
She won't eat other fake meats, but she likes soy chorizo.
Did she ever try the Impossible Burger from Burger King?
No, I don't like the because they burn the shit out of it. Like
Yeah.
everyone I've gotten, it's like, can you burn this any more? But she does not like impossible meat. She will, but she does like the soy chorizo. And somebody gave us like a 10-pound thing of soy chorizo, so we have so much soy chorizo in our freezer. Um, yeah. All right, where do you want to go from here?
I guess we could go to baseball.
Um, what the hell, Cubs? What the hell?
Offense is really struggling right now. Really, really struggling.
Yeah, like, all right, you lost 2-3 to Atlanta. That sucks, but Atlanta's really good. All right, you salvaged a game. Um, that
One of the
first
few
game,
games you actually scored runs, too.
and so you're like, okay, now if we can just go take care of business against Pittsburgh, I'll feel okay. And I remember Matt Spiegel was like, I just feel the Cubs got to take 3 or 4 against Pittsburgh. And bro, this series, this might have been the worst series of the season.
It was. It was a complete embarrassment. These past 4 games were a complete and utter embarrassment. And the one game you won, you got bailed out a bit. I mean, you got lucky. And even so, you got 1 run on 5 hits. You won because you didn't give up a single run. And, you could talk about that replay, the ball coming out of the hand. There's a lot of controversy there. But by the skin of your teeth, you pulled the one game out. The one game I'll excuse was Friday. Paul Skeens is, I don't know how anybody can possibly hit that shit.
That matchup could not have been like a bigger dichotomy matchup.
Right.
You have old man that throws 85 miles an hour, young man who's throwing 103 with nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And you have one guy who is the most soft-spoken dude. The other guy goes into the post-game press conference doing a Kenny Powers. Like,
Yeah.
I as much as I hated what Paul Skeens did to the Cubs, boy, I appreciate the shit out of him.
Hey, you know what? I mean, he's gonna be doing it to a lot of teams. That's this is the number one prospect in baseball right now, and he's clearly not afraid of the big moments. So you got to give him credit for that. So I wasn't upset about that game. The game that upset me was Thursday night. You had how many chances to tie or take the lead, and then Justin Steele just what I don't know what it is about the Pirates that they just have his number, man. They're bombing balls out of the park, and the Cubs are trying to scratch and claw their way back. You had the tying run at second with nobody out in the 8th inning. You couldn't even get him home.
That was
I mean, it
frustrating.
just you should have won that first game. Friday's game, okay, you were completely outmatched. And then, today's game, I think you were out hit like 10-2. You didn't deserve to win, but the Pirates gave you every opportunity to stay in that. They stranded so many base runners, and you had a chance. I believe it was the 6th or 7th inning. It was practically the same scenario as Thursday night. You were down 2. You had 2 men in scoring position and nobody out, and you settled for one on a sac fly from Morel. It was literally the same situation. Suzuki and Bellinger were aboard. Morel hits a sac fly, and the rest don't come through. And you have way too many automatic outs right now. And we just got word that the Cubs are calling up Luis Vasquez. And it sounds like, based on Jesse Rogers' tweet, that Nico is coming back Tuesday, and so is Dansby, which is much needed because your middle infield of Magical Masaboni is just that's not a major league middle infield right now. And maybe they can field their own okay, but you're looking at like WRC plus combined of under 60 between the two. And that's just not getting it done.
I just so what my worry was is so they bring up Vasquez. I assumed he was going to be filling in for either Nico or Dansby because it sounded like they were going to be out longer. Um, so I'm not sure where he's playing.
Yeah,
I have no idea. Like I mean, this is me pontificating here. Um, but I know Nico is day to day, and they don't have another game until Tuesday. So it's like, oh, maybe them calling him up means he's not ready yet. I don't know. I don't know. Um, you know, and in front of the injury front, we got a little bit of good news and a little bit of bad news about Julian Merriweather. They starting to throw tomorrow, but looks like he's going to be out longer than the 60 days.
yeah. But you know what? I'm gonna take this moment, and I'm sure this will bite me in the ass, but the bullpen the past few weeks, it's been better.
Well, better than garbage is still doesn't mean it's good.
I
Um,
mean, look at this past week. Look at this past week. I mean, they kept him in the game Thursday. Friday, you were out of it because Kyle Hendricks got bombed and you were facing Skeen, so it didn't matter. You know, Saturday, after Shota Imanaga, and we'll talk about him, you had two perfect innings from Mark Leiter and Hector Neris. And then today, um, you know, kept you in the game again. I think that Wisniewski's looked solid. I think Ben Brown looks good. Uh, Hector Neris still gets into way too many situations. I think that guy that they just picked up, he's looked good so far. I don't know if it's going to last, but
I mean, honestly, I'm hoping. I think the hope is that um, when you get Wicks and Smiley back, that just having healthier arms makes things better. Um, and I'm gonna guess Merriweather, who was absolutely the the living, breathing life's blood of this bullpen, is I'm guessing we get him back in July. Um,
yeah, I'm not saying that not having him back wouldn't be huge, but even so, he's missed all that time. Can we rely on him being the same guy?
I don't know, but I'm hoping though that people coming back means that you can use Ben Brown and Hayden Wisniewski in the bullpen more, and uh, and it gives you more options.
Yeah, because honestly,
If we ever throw Quas in there ever again, I might jump out the window.
was. Um, I think Jordan Wicks coming back will be big. Um, I
Wicks and Smiley are both starting rehab starts this week,
yeah, that's huge
so they should be
because
back soon.
I don't think we could go any further with Kyle Hendricks at this point in the starting
No,
rotation.
no, I think he is in there until somebody else is ready to be healthy enough to take that spot.
If
I
you're
think
gonna get, yeah,
I think Council's just done with him.
if you're going to start him, give him a short leash because what have we seen in a lot of his starts this year?
Oh, well, definitely by the third go round, it's just they're teeing off.
It's batting practice, right?
Yeah.
So, look at his last start against the Pirates. First few innings looked pretty good, and then the wheels fell off. That's been kind of a common theme where Hendricks will give you a good first inning or so, maybe even two or three, and then it all goes to shit.
I think they should. I mean, if they're going to have to use him, and I'm going to throw this out there, is use him like an opener. Let him go. Let him go 2 innings, and then just bullpen the rest of the way.
You have read my mind. That's exactly where I was going with. Um, listen, if you have arrested Ben Brown going into a Kyle Hendricks start, if you're going to start him, then yeah, let him face the first 7, 8, 9 batters if he can, and then you give him the quick hook. Don't even give him a chance to fall apart.
Yeah. I mean, hell, if Smiley comes back, he's another guy that you probably put in that same boat, is put them in the same game. You know, is Hendricks for the first, 9 outs or so, and then Smiley come in and get, another 3 innings, and then you bullpen it the rest of the way. Not ideal, but I think that makes it much more functional.
Yeah, I think so too. Because look at the starting rotation right now, the rest of it. Shota Imanaga's making history.
The dude has been like amazing. Like there's absolutely no way anybody could have predicted this.
No, nobody foresaw this.
The dude is 9 starts in and has like a .84 ERA.
It's even better than the first 9 starts for Fernando Valenzuela. And if you know your baseball history, or if you were allowed to experience it, people know what a big deal Fernando Mania was. So yeah, it's a massive deal. And listen, for all the people online that aren't Cubs fans belly aching over him getting the attention, yes, we know it's not sustainable. And it's a joy watching him. Absolute joy.
There's gonna be a game where the wind's blowing out in Wrigley and just the wheels come off.
Yes.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yes. But
enjoy this while it lasts.
We all know it. We all know it's coming. And yeah, nobody is going to sustain a sub-1 ERA pitching. Hopefully for him will be 30 starts, 25 to 30 starts. We know this. And there's going to be a game where people are just going to be putting balls in play. No matter where they're landing, they're going to be hits. Like, that's just going to happen. That's the nature of the beast. But you better appreciate the hell what he's doing right now. And he loves the energy of Wrigley Field. The energy feeds off him. He feeds off the energy, kind of a two-way street. Because we see the fans start to stand and cheer when it's a big moment and he's on the mound. And so far, he's delivered every single time. And what I think is a shame is how little run support and help he's gotten from his offense on the mound. Because you look at this last game, he pitched well enough to get the win. He didn't get it because he didn't get any runs scored. The time before, he pitched 5 scoreless innings, really grinded his way against the Braves, didn't get any runs scored for him. The run support for him has been pretty small. I think it was the game in Seattle. He won that game, but didn't get a lot of run support there. He got plenty of run support against the Dodgers. That was one of the few times, and with the Rockies. But a lot of his starts, he's gone out there and he's had to pitch and match the opponent pitch by pitch, especially lately because the offense hasn't scored for him.
So prior to his start yesterday, the number of consecutive starts he made where he gave up 2 runs or less do you know how that stands in Cubs history?
Where?
The last guy to do that was named Mordecai Three Fingers Brown.
Yeah. The legendary pitcher that everyone knows about, but no one alive today can say they saw pitch.
As Shane Gillis would say in his stand-up, he's like, that was back when announcers talk like this. Yeah, Shane, we got Earl Curley on the mound. Yeah.
Mordecai Three Finger Brown. Hell, in Mordecai Brown, you didn't have televisions or much broadcasting at all.
No.
That was way back when.
Does anybody know what Mordecai Three Finger Brown looks like?
Yeah, he doesn't have he's missing a finger.
You're identifying him by his hand.
Yes.
It wasn't me. It was the guy with 3 fingers.
Hey, they did it in Princess Bride with the guy who had 6.
I'm pulling up a picture of Mordecai Brown's face, and I guarantee I couldn't pick it up out of a lineup.
No, he looks like every other guy that played baseball in that era.
He looks like Sam the Butcher from Brady Bunch.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
Looks like he's coming for a date with Alice, the maid. Uh, oh, Mordecai Three Finger Brown.
I just it's just so funny. Like, here's these guys in like these, you know, not as symmetrical caps in collared uniforms, baggy collared uniforms, and here's this guy going out pitching 300 plus innings, which isn't even thinkable these days. Nobody was thinking about a pitch count or an earned run average at the time. It's insane.
Do you know what his full name was?
Let me look it up because I know
Oh,
obviously I know Mordecai is his
don't
name,
look it
but
up. I want to see if you can guess what his name is.
oh Jesus. It's probably like Mordecai. Wasn't his middle name Peter?
That's one of his middle names.
He's got
That's
multiple.
Yes, he was Mordecai Peter Centennial Brown.
Wow, his middle name was Centennial. That's pretty dope.
He was born in 1876.
Yeah. And he died a few years after World War II ended.
Oh, so Shota, yeah, what he's doing is pretty awesome.
And he's got all his fingers.
He does have all of his fingers. And I don't know, maybe Mordecai Three Finger Brown was a funny guy. I'm sure he could do some party tricks, but I feel like Shota's probably funnier.
I I don't know. I don't like to judge a book by its cover, but every photo of Mordecai Three Finger Brown doesn't really scream out as comedian to me.
What I'm saying is Shota comes out to like, he seems likable and like a good time. Mordecai looks like he's ready to fight you at any moment.
Oh yeah, I mean it looks like he's got like a wadded chaw in his mouth, and if he's drinking a beer at a bar and you say something he doesn't like, he'll slam it on the ground and put his fisticuffs up.
The old timey fisticuffs with the two fists like this upper hands.
He's got the parted hair in the middle.
Uh, he wears a hat with that's round with a flat top. He's got overalls with no shirt on underneath.
Oh jeez. He's doing that leg kick when you put the fisticuffs up.
He's moving his arms like in a circular motion.
Like a cartoon.
Uh,
And you hear that like early 1900s like fast piano music playing in the background.
he's got giant forearms but tiny little elbows like he's Popeye.
Ding ding. Yeah, so you could definitely say that while the pitching is similar in terms of results to Mordecai Brown, Shota Imanaga is not quite like Mordecai Brown.
No, no. Um, for one, we know what he looks like. We could spot the guy out of a crowd.
Well, we know we know what his voice sounds like too. I don't know what
And
Mordecai Brown sounded like.
no, I don't think anybody. I think there's no recording of his voice. I would
Probably
be,
not.
if there is, you would see me do like a heart attack motion like I was Fred Sanford and Sanford and Son.
Eh.
Uh, but Shota comes out, his first press conference as a Cub, and already wins over the crowd. We love the guy. And then he pitches, and then we're like, we love the guy more.
Oh yeah, I mean his popularity has done nothing but grow ever since he got here, and the fact that he helped try to give the fans something by having Chelsea Daggers as his walkout song just further grew his popularity on the north side.
Yeah, he has built himself a lot of leeway with the fans here.
Well, and here's another joke too. People are saying like, man, if pitchers still had to hit in the NL, who's to say Shota wouldn't be as good or a better hitter than half this offense right now?
Do you want to know a funny fact?
Sure.
Madison Bumgarner has more career grand slams than Derek Jeter.
That is something.
Double, double the number, I
What, did
believe.
Jeter have one and he has two?
Um, the Madison Bumgarner hit 2 in 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah,
Travis Wood had a grand slam. You remember that?
yes. Career grand slams. He had 2, and they were both in the same season. So he has twice as many grand slams as Derek Jeter.
Oh, that's funny.
Um,
But how many
next,
did Mordecai Three Finger Brown have? Probably none.
old Mordecai Three Finger Brown had 19 in one season. Well, because he batted every other at bat.
Yeah, when ballparks were like 500 feet to center, didn't have a damn fence.
That was before they recorded home runs. They called those. Oh, we better get the ball back, or this game is called because we only had one ball.
Yeah, right. Well, actually, fun fact, um, the Cubs as a franchise played in a number of ballparks before Wrigley Field, and they were kind of spread around the Chicagoland area. The first one, before they joined the National League, was where Millennium Park is today. And then they went to the 23rd Street grounds, and then they went back to the lakefront at Lakefront Park in that same spot. And then there was a time they played at West Side Grounds 1 and West Side Grounds 2. I believe West Side Park 1, I believe it was this one. It had like a bicycle race track that went around it, and the dimensions were very, very short. So during a time when they played in the 1800s in this old ballpark, because the dimensions were so short, uh, balls hit over the wall were ground rule doubles, not home runs.
Yes. Mordecai Three Finger Brown hit 2 home runs in his career.
Inside the Parkers.
No, I don't know. It doesn't say, but neither one was a grand slam.
Darn.
What a wimp.
Darn. I like to think they were both inside the park where you just see like the outfielders just flopping the ball around and you see Mordecai just chugging it just around the bases and just waving his arms as he's trying to run around. Just that old timey run, and he slides hard into home plate.
Sometimes when you type a question into Google, it prompts other questions that you may want to ask.
Yes.
So I typed in Mordecai Brown career grand slams. Jested questions. Is Mordecai Brown called Three Fingers?
Nah.
Due to a farm machinery accident. He it says he lost 2 fingers on his right hands, but gained a colorful nickname.
Well, if you look at pictures of his hand and you see kind of that bent out of shape middle finger, he was able to use that to like kind of shape a curveball. You could just put some nasty movement on it.
He didn't need stuff. He had a nub.
Exactly. He used his missing finger as an advantage to him.
Oh, Mordecai Brown. Look at him holding a ball. So weird.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, you talked about the Cubs offense just being miserable the last, I don't know, however long. Ian Happ got a benching, and I think it was well needed. He has really struggled. Christopher Morel is struggled as well.
At least he's driving in runs.
And having good at bats.
He
Like
is.
I think the tipping point with Happ was Morel had that nice at bat, and Happer just goes up there and just has a
Dog turd.
dog turd at bat there. I think Council's just like, no, he's got to get sat. And it didn't have to be a big deal. And I think veterans, hopefully they realize like, hey, everybody's got to get sat down at some point. you know, Happer is a guy that I think presses when he's struggling.
Oh, big time. Big time. You can see it.
And he looks like when he gets up there, when he's in a funk, it looks like he's constipated. And I think he just needed to sit. Just, hey, we'll figure this out. Get yourself collected and come back and give us some good at bats. Because I don't think it was necessarily the results. Is the at bats looked terrible.
Right, exactly. And you're not seeing him drive the ball at all. Everything is weak on the ground or pop fly. I mean, that's been the theme for a lot of batters, but with him, yeah, definitely. And you see great patience with him when he's locked in. And he's when he's locked in, he's patient on balls that are around the zone, but when the ball's in the zone, he's very aggressive, and you're not really seeing either of that. I know it sounds like it's conflicting, but you see him take pitches right down the middle early that when he's hot, he's normally much more aggressive, and then when there's, pitches kind of around the zone, he's not as patient. So you just know he's not the approach just isn't there right now.
Yeah. So this week, Cubs have the Cardinals again. I'm sorry, the Braves again, and then the Cardinals. And the Cardinals should be a winnable series, but you got to go out there and do it.
Yeah, you do. You do.
You need to do well this week. You're only 2 games out of first, but you can't fall too far behind the Brewers, I don't think.
No, and
this is shaping up to be a 2-horse race, I think.
well, you know what? You have a big series coming up against the Brewers, 4 in Milwaukee next week, I believe, and that's going to be pretty important. The one thing that's been nice is, despite this awful series against the Pirates, the Astros won their series against the Brewers, so you didn't really lose any ground over this, but you don't want to just keep that status quo going. You want to either gain ground, but that's the one silver lining is you could have easily lost another game or two and you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it worked. I mean, I'm not gonna say worked out, but you didn't lose ground. You maintained, even though you had a really rough week. But you need to start putting some victories together. And it sucks because they just don't seem to put full games together. It's the starting pitching looks great. The bullpen looks bad. The hitting looks great. Pitching looks bad. The starting pitching and the bullpen actually come through, but you can't put any runs across. Like, just put a game together.
Right.
And the last thing I had to say about the Cubs is, I don't know if you heard Zach Zaidman, who I kind of find annoying. Did you hear his interview with Hector Neris?
I did not.
He asked him about being called Heart Attack Hector. Hector Neris got really upset. Why would you? That's clearly not a nickname that he enjoys. Like, why would you say that to him? Like, clearly that's derogatory. Like, you meant, like, that's said in a hurtful way. Why would you say that to him? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was rough.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't know if I'm in the majority or the minority on this, but I far prefer listening to the radio broadcast for the Cubs than the TV broadcast.
I think it depends on who's on the air.
Okay, Pat and Ron.
It's hard to beat Pat Hughes.
Like, I love Pat and Ron. I think they're fantastic.
They are. They are.
And I don't love the TV broadcast like I hoped I would.
I might be in the minority. I think Boog has started to kind of settle in this year. I think it was kind of rough at first, but I think he's settling in a bit better. But I think it's definitely it's much more preferable when JD is around because I think JD's great.
JD is great. Boog is okay. I don't like that he refers to himself as John. If you want to win me over, you better be Boog.
Yeah. If
Just
you're
gotta be
Boog, you're Boog.
be Boog. All right, should we shift this over to the south side?
Sure.
Um, the White Sox had been on a little bit of a winning streak here. There, Tommy Pham leading the way, changing everything with this team, and then they ran into the Yankees.
Yeah, the Yankees, they didn't just beat them, they kind of clobbered them.
They really clobbered them, and it just it makes me wonder how they'll bounce back because they've got two really tough series this week. They got the Blue Jays and the Orioles, and it makes you wonder how they're going to rebound from the Yankee series because they were playing really well. I mean, not really well. They were playing significantly better than they had been.
I mean, it's not even Memorial Day and you're 16 games back.
They put themselves in a really bad hole. But I mean, honestly, their last 10, they're playing 500 baseball. That's
I
that,
didn't, does it matter?
no, in the grand scheme of things, especially when you know that they're about to have a fire sale. And it doesn't, but it's a shame because bringing in one player sort of sparked things, you know? You're
But
like,
Tommy Pham's been really good for them, no doubt.
why couldn't you have done this in the off season? Had you started off with playing this level of baseball, I I think all of baseball would have taken note and you would have saved a lot of face. You have endured a lot of stuff that you don't need to had you just added some talent, you know?
I mean, I think that Tommy Pham has played really, really well with this ball club. And I think there's several good things you can look at the White Sox right now. Tommy Pham's looked good. That's a trade asset. Eric Fetty has been excellent. That's a
Yep.
trade asset.
Yep. I mean, absolutely.
And Garrett Crochet, he's looked good too, and he might be part of your future. So those are good things. Luis Robert is working his way back. That's, going to be nice to have. I don't want to just dismiss that there's no good storylines here because there are some you could pick them out. Um, I mean, like,
Chris Flexen hasn't been bad.
well, he got rocked today.
Yeah, I mean, it's against the Yankees, but overall, I mean, he's going to be. I mean, he's going to be a guy that teams are making calls about for trades.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you'll flip him for a bag of balls, but yeah.
Um,
For Fetty, though, that's someone that can bring you something.
yeah, he's played really well. He's played really well.
And he's got a year of control next year, so that's even more valuable. And Tommy Pham is going to bring something too. I'm not saying anything huge, but he'll bring you something. And Michael Kopech might bring you something. I don't know how big, but it might bring, I mean, it's going to be a matter of because the stuff can look really, really good. And lately, Michael Kopech has pitched really, really well. It's just a matter of how much our team's willing to give up for him, knowing that he's had such an up and down career. Like the we've seen the flashes of greatness, but it's just never been really put fully together.
If I hear another person be like, that would be a trade right there. It's the Cubs going and uh, getting oh my god, I'm having an old man moment, brain fart. The player just said, the White Sox closer,
Kopech.
Kopech. God, couldn't even think of his name. Yeah, the Cubs. If I hear another person like Cubs should go get Michael Kopech, I'm like, is that really where you want to go?
For the Cubs, that's pretty risky.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it's one thing if the White Sox DFA'd him and you picked him up.
oh, that's completely different.
Yeah, but if you're trading assets to require him, they're not going to give him away to you.
Right.
I'm not buying that. I think there's better options that probably will cost you less.
I agree.
I
I
mean,
agree.
didn't the Orioles just DFA a guy because he was out of options? I
Well,
mean,
yeah, that's how the Cubs got their last reliever from the Mariners.
yeah, I think the Orioles just did that the other day. So, um, that's those are the options. Like, all right, you don't need somebody to come in and be an ace. I mean, it would be nice, but like, just get somebody in there that's not gonna blow every save.
Right, rely a guy to get outs.
Yeah, just go in there and be be average.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we've been begging for from the bullpen in a number of spots.
Yeah, don't all look like turd tacos all in the same day.
Right.
Space it out a little bit.
Especially in vital spots.
Yeah, especially in San Diego when you're up by 8 runs. Like, don't all come in and just shit the bed at the same time.
I don't think that loss will ever not piss me off thinking about it.
No, it's just so angering.
There are a few regular season losses that stick with me, but that's one of them.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
We need to have our own 8-0 comeback.
That would be nice. Get the bad taste out of your mouth.
Yeah, it tastes like puke.
But we're still a good ways away from the trade deadline in baseball. You don't usually see a ton of trades. I mean, you'll see like those ones where people trade a player that's out of options, those kind of things. But like,
The Luis Arise was pretty rare.
but like a real trade, you don't see those. So the question is, we all know the White Sox are going to start trading players.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do they start doing that?
Well, they've already traded a few. They traded Robbie Grossman, small
Yeah, but
move,
those, I mean, I'm talking about like
the big names.
the big names. Um,
Probably, yeah. I mean, they traded Dylan Cease close to the season. Didn't spring
yeah,
training already start?
I think it might have. And now he's one of the highest odds of winning the NL Cy Young.
Yeah, the odds are looking pretty good for him. Um, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think because Tommy Pham is the kind of guy, he's played around, but look at the Arizona Diamondbacks acquired him last year, and that kind of helped spark them a bit.
Yeah.
So you wonder if that's gonna, be on a lot of people's radars, a lot of contenders' radars. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Sox move a notable piece, a somewhat notable piece before the deadline. I'm not saying Luis Robert. I'm not saying Yoan Moncada. I might not even be saying Kopech or Eric Fetty, but if you would have told me that, like, before the deadline, somebody wanted that bat, and the White Sox still had a 300-ish winning percentage, maybe a little better, but if they're obviously still way back in the standings, and maybe you do flip a Tommy Pham at that point, or you do flip one of your other relievers like a Brebbia or something like that, and because those are the kind of players that you can see going before the deadline, like some of those bullpen arms and some of those depth pieces that you have. um, I truly wonder what they're
Most,
going to do with Moncada.
I mean, I think they would love to trade him, but I don't think anybody's going to take him.
Right.
Um, it's most teams you would be like, okay, they're out of it. They're waving the white flag. They're going to make a bunch of trades, and then it's going to be the when can we get the most value for trading, and that's when they make the trade. That's most teams going to operate. Oh, if it's going to be wait until the trade deadline and then have a bidding war, okay, then that's when we're going to get the best value. Sometimes it might be a team might be able to give up a premium to get the player early to get, you know, more at bats or more starts or whatever the case is from that player. You're like, okay, that's going to be the most. And that's how most teams are going to operate. But you have to factor in the Reinsdorf effect. Is it's not out of the realm of possibility where Reinsdorf is like, well, trade him early because I don't want to pay the salary, and dumps them to save the money. That's not out of the question.
No, it's not.
where you just trade guys early, not because that's when you're going to get the best value, because you're financially going to benefit the most.
Exactly.
And that's always the wild card with the White Sox is Jerry sticking his stupid nose into things and trying to get more money.
That's true. I mean, those are good points.
It's Getz is in a tough situation because he's not going to succeed as long as Reinsdorf is there. But if Reinsdorf is not there, then whoever replaces him as owner is definitely not going to keep Chris Getz. So
Unless he shocks everybody, but
I don't know. The guy failed upwards, I think.
it kind of seems that way.
So you want to talk Bulls or Blackhawks here to wrap this up?
Uh, don't really have much in the Blackhawks department. Bulls, I guess. I know they made a few coaching hires.
Yeah, I mean the big one is they hired a new assistant coach. And the interesting part about that is that I've heard some people talk about how maybe Billy Donovan has an exit strategy for leaving the Bulls, and could this be the part of the exit strategy? Is bringing somebody in with head coaching experience um, to be a replacement and have a built-in guy.
I don't know.
Because Wes Unseld Jr. Was the head coach of Washington for like 3 seasons.
Yes.
And he spent time as assistant coach in Denver and a couple of other places. And so you're like, okay, well, he's a guy that's done well for himself. And so maybe this is a handoff, a long handoff from Billy Donovan.
Well, it makes you wonder. It does. Um, I don't know. We'll see. I don't have many strong thoughts on the matter right now.
Yeah, I don't either. Um, and then Dan Craig left the Clippers staff to join the Billy Donovan staff. So Dan Craig spent the last 4 seasons on Tyronn Lue's staff, and he spent 4 seasons under Eric Spoelstra. So he and also coached in the G League. So you've got new staff, and I think those are the big changes that AK talked about.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who's from New York. He's from the Bronx, grew up in the Bronx, and he's a big Knicks fan. He was like, "Oh, the Knicks are doing great. Knicks are gonna do this." And Jalen Brunson, and I was like, I don't want to be the one that bursts your bubble, but I've lived the Thibodeau experience, and he is going to squeeze every bit of wins out of all of these players until the end when you lose a game 7. He's like, dude, you're being a hater. Not gonna happen. And today I just messaged him. I was like, bro, I'm like,
Look what happened against Indiana.
this is exactly what I was saying is gonna happen. Like, this is what happens. He's like, it's just injuries. I was like, it's not. This is what Tibbs does. Like, he finds some guard, obscure guard, and that's undervalued by the league, turns him into a 1-year superstar, wins, does amazing in the regular season, and then hits a wall in the playoffs. That's what he does. And he coaches hard. But, eventually that catches up. Guys get burnt out, guys get injured, and everything's got to go right for him to win. But you got to give him the guy. I mean, you got to give it to him. He gets the most out of the talent he has.
Yep, it's true. Um, I don't know what this offseason is going to bring, and I don't know if there's going to be anything that's going to bring me much hope.
Yeah, I mean, we'll wait to see how this plays out. But if these are the big moves that they AK talked about, then I'm going to be very disappointed.
My expectations are very low, to be honest.
And then Blackhawks, there's just two things I want to talk about. One is, um, I've been reading different things about Demidov, the winger from Russia,
Mm-hmm.
and man, every, so the tough part about it is because of the strained relationships between the United States and Russia, you essentially you don't get staff on the ground being able to see these Russian players in person. So you're relying on Russian coaches that you have on, as like either on your staff or as like, kind of consultants almost to help you identify, what these guys look like and what they're like as people because you don't have these interactions. And and there's one unnamed Russian coach who Scott Powers was interviewing, and the way he talks about Demidov is he thinks he's better than Macklin Celebrini, and he says that he'll finish up his that the reason he didn't actually get promoted to the KHL is because in the K or in the Russian league, if you're in the lower level, you can't get lent to the KHL and play unless you have multiple years left on your deal. And he's on the last year of his deal, so wasn't eligible. So he was held at the lower level, but he just apparently just dominated the play so much, and as a 2 point a game player, um, and so um, it makes me a little bit excited, but I'm still nervous about signing a Russian player because what if he doesn't come over?
Yeah, there's complications for sure.
Um, yeah, so I that's my concern about him. So, like, here was one of the questions: how fearful should an NHL team be that Demidov will extend his contract with SKA to remain in the KHL beyond next season? Um, and this coach seems to say he'll definitely go overseas after next year. He's told me that a number of times. He doesn't want to prolong his contract. Uh, um, so he'll he won't be able to play in the KHL. He'll be playing that in the SKL. So it's that's that'll be the disappointing part is that he's going to play in the lower level another season till he's done with his contract before he can come to the Blackhawks. Um, so that's a little bit concerning. Whereas the kid from Michigan State is here. You can see him play. You can meet with him, and he's not locked into Russia. He can come play for you next year if you want, or do whatever it is you feel is best for him to develop.
Right.
And the last thing I wanted to bring up is I'm sure you read about the new lawsuit against the Blackhawks.
I did, and I'm a little confused.
You know, I had to read several different things to kind of piece things together, and it still doesn't make sense. And it
It
seems like, honestly, I'm not trying to discount somebody that claimed to be a victim, but what it sounds like is that didn't say anything, then didn't get a contract renewal, then filed a lawsuit, and then threw in every hot button term that they could as with the Blackhawks: sexual assault, relations with native tribes, the logo, it's like every hot button issue. You're like, and they all got thrown in after the person didn't get a new contract.
Right. And what wasn't somebody mentioned in the case not even employed by the Blackhawks themselves?
Yes. So the person that was accused of committing the harassment doesn't work for the Blackhawks. They're part of a native tribe advocacy group that the Blackhawks have a financial tie with.
Right.
So it would kind of be like, like if Pepsi was your big sponsor and you had Pepsi, the guy from Pepsi, was sexually harassing one of your contractors, like that Pepsi person doesn't work for you. Like you're in with Pepsi, but you can't control what that person does. And apparently they did a full investigation with an external group, and they didn't find anything. Like there was no evidence of anything happening.
Yeah, this one makes me scratch my head a little bit.
Yeah, but it doesn't stop all the chuds from online being like, you should take away their number 2 pick. They shouldn't even have. You should take Bedard away.
They don't even read. They don't even read.
No. Well, they would be upset if they could read.
Right. Good King of the Hill joke. Yeah, I mean they don't even look into it. You read into it, and I was just kind of like, okay, this I don't know. This thing just seems weird and bit of a stretch when it comes to the Blackhawks' involvement here.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give final thoughts because I mean there's so little information out there.
Right.
I will wait until like it either goes to trial or whatever before I comment on it. But just wanted to bring it up. It just, a lot of it doesn't sound like it makes sense.
It doesn't make sense. That's exactly. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me right now. But again, we see what more information comes out and what happens. But yeah, I read what we have right now, and I'm just like, I can't really. Yeah, I don't know.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nope, I think I've said my piece.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill's Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. How we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.